Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
The National Stock Exchange of India has been actively involved with initiatives to educate the young generation of our country on the importance of financial management. One such initiative is NSE FinWiz that focuses on educating and advising the young workforce of the country on wealth management to enhance financial literacy and to empower
Insurance
them.
is for protection and investment is for growth.
Another program facilitated by NSE IPFT is NSE Financial Quest. This inter-school financial quiz contest goes an extra mile by educating the young students on fundamentals of finance.
On the buzzer, what is this? It's the formula for the simple interest. Simple interest is the right answer.
Under the NSE Financial Quest Base Camps banner, the program engages students around the year through workshops on various topics, projects, interactive videos and quizzes.
DiCaprio is bouncing checks of Pan Am.
Plus 75 Plus 75.
To facilitate these two programs, NSE along with CNBC TV18 has travelled across the country to bridge the wide knowledge gap in terms of finance. In this episode of NSE FinWiz, we are all set to achieve our objectives once again by gauging young professionals in a new city.
Hello and welcome to Season 4 of NSE FinWiz, powered by CNBC TV18. I'm your host Mridhu Bhandari, and today my team and I are in Hyderabad on the campus of a global pharmaceutical giant from India, Dr. Reddy's laboratories.
For an young professional, this environment not only is exciting, but also the uncertainty in their professional career is too strong. So it is high time the young professionals plan their personal finance to hedge the professional risk they actually undergo. To me, this is a very crucial program for them, given their overall environment, and whether they can use this personal finance to mitigate whatever risk they have.
On a short-term basis, given the amount of risk that we take, principal protection is something which is very important. But on a long-term, the long-term objective for me is to have at least 5 to 7% higher real rate of returns on a longer-term time frame.
I'm not a very big fan of taking risks, so I would choose the midway of having maybe 40% in the old conventional way, and because I'm young, I can take a little bit of risk and I'll put 60% of my finances in the modern way.
I have a little inclination towards conventional, but my portfolio is more towards the modern means of investing, and if I would say, then I think about 80-85% of my portfolio is towards equity, and that's where I tend to be inclined towards.
I have two questions to the NSE experts who are coming in today. So one is, what is that must-do investment plan that they would suggest for young employees like us? And the second one is, how is investing in the real estate look like now?
Hello and welcome to Season 4 of NSE FinWiz, powered by CNBC TV18. Today we are in the beautiful city of Hyderabad and we are on the campuses of pharma giant Dr. Reddy's laboratories. Our set of financial experts is all set to answer the questions of employees here. So let me begin by introducing them to you. Harshvardhan Rungta, CFP Rungta Securities, and Lovai Navlaki, founder of International Money Matters. Thanks for joining us on the show today, gentlemen. First up, Harsh, let's talk a little bit about trends in India, especially concerning the youth. We are hardworking, we are smart people, we are good savers. Are we good multipliers of money as well?
The thing is, the young people today are not able to emphasize or look beyond, say, probably 10 years from now.
Right.
And that trend is something which needs to be corrected.
Okay.
You need to put aside a certain portion of your income, which could be 20% to begin with. It should be about 20% of whatever you take should be set aside for investing into certain future goals of yours.
Right.
Whether you can see them or you can't see them.
Okay.
So if you ask a 25-year-old to sit back and think about retirement, Now he's not going to give you a good look.
Yeah.
Because at 25, we were talking about, and to a youngster, a person who's in the current generation trying to think and talk about retirement, no, it doesn't fit into his scheme of things. But that is exactly where they need to start thinking about.
So Lovey, a lot of youngsters think that, I've just started working, maybe first 2-3 years, let me enjoy my income, and then I'll start thinking about investing or saving money. Is that a right mindset to have?
I think that mindset is obviously the first thing that comes to mind, that now I've got some money, let me enjoy. It may be a good idea to start and have a habit to put aside some money as investment. I'm not so sure whether we should tell people who've just started working saying put a certain percentage of money. It could be 500 rupees a month, it could be 1,000 rupees a month. But I think that it's just that the habit needs to start.
Right. Can you tell us a little bit about new age options, market linked options, and for people who are scared of the markets, what's your advice?
The question is, as a youngster today, what do I look at? What do I want? So you need to be very careful that you do not even get swayed by what is happening around. You need to be grounded. You need to understand there is something called a portfolio which you need to create and have an asset allocation. So that asset allocation will have a bit of everything depending on what your requirements are. So you start off with that attitude, and then you keep modifying it based on how your life changes over the period of time.
All right. And so let's take a show of hands right now. How many of you invest in mutual funds? Quite a few there. And how many of you invest directly into equity markets? Quite a few there too. Great. So what's your advice to first-time investors who are looking at equity markets? Because, these can be very attractive to an outsider because you hear of so many people making so much money, losing so much money as well. But what are the do's and don'ts for first-time investors?
So, my personal take is that buying equities is almost like saying I'm going to bet on this one property in Jubilee Hills because that's going to do much better than that property in Gachibowli. But if I thought Hyderabad as a whole was going to be a good investment, right, then I want to buy a basket of properties. Obviously, if I have, and let's assume that 5 years later that one property does the best. If I had selected it, then great, then the stock investment is much better than the mutual fund, which is a pool. But otherwise, the risks involved are much, much lesser. So not just first-time investors, we tell even seasoned investors that if they want to play the stock market, then we treat it as exactly that, that's play, that's not counted in their corpus. We are not looking at it at all if they want to do it on their own. That's more the fun thing, I want to learn it on my own, that type of stuff. But when you do something like that, I think the best thing to do is to control the amount that I can lose. So therefore I have a minimum amount. So it's like going to the casino. But if I go in with only $100 or 100 rupees, then that's the maximum I can lose.
Right.
If I go in with 1 lakh rupees, I can lose all of it. So it's a question of deciding how much I can afford to lose and use that for stock market. And the rest, I think from a strategic, long-term point of view, mutual funds certainly a better bet.
All right. On that note, we're going to head into a short break, but on the other side, our experts are going to give us tips on how to invest in real estate. You're watching NSE FinWiz on CNBC TV 18. Welcome back to NSE FinWiz, powered by CNBC TV 18. Today we are in Hyderabad at the campus of Dr. Reddy's laboratories, and the employees here have lots of questions for our financial experts. So let's find out what the questions are, experts.
My question is with respect to equity versus mutual funds. And what you said is the best way to invest in equity is through mutual funds if we don't know much about equity market. So my question specifically is, when you say mutual funds, how do you select the most appropriate mutual fund? Do you need to have multiple mutual funds in your portfolio, or it has to be like selected few? And the third question, do we go with the initial mutual funds, or which are already in market, which have shown recurring return of investments?
Okay. So how to track a good fund? How to really spot a good fund?
So I think that it's very important to have a basket. Don't pick only one mutual fund. It's important to have multiple. One way to do it is to look up some of the more popular ratings that appear in print, on online, etc. So I think Money Control has a list. Some newspapers have a list. CRISIL has a list. Mint has a list. So you can pick from there. Not advisable to have too many. It frankly depends on the amount that you are putting aside. But having maybe anywhere between 3 to 5 equity funds is a good idea. Yes, you want to pick funds which have a track record. You are not making an investment in mutual fund equal to angel investing. So you don't want to figure out who is a new, bright young kid on the block. This is hard-earned money and you have some goals. So pick things which are with a track record. The other option is to, work with an advisor and see what his thought process is. Because even the ratings or the analysis that is done, you will find multiple rating agencies having some difference of rating for the same fund. And that's probably the reason. The reason for that is that the basis on which they select is different. And then you need to figure out which of them is more applicable for you. So an advisor might help. But these are some simple ways of picking and choosing.
My question is that does SIP mean only putting in the money or in mutual funds? At appropriate time, is it relevant to withdraw the money and reinvest when the market is again down, or we just take course and let the fund managers manage your money?
So when you are investing in a fund via SIP, that is a systematic investment plan, the underlying objective being that you do not want to time the market and you cannot time the market. So the idea is, if you started an SIP in the year 2010 and you've been investing regularly every month till say 2017 now, suddenly you feel the markets are going to go down or they're going to go up, either ways, and you said, now let's start timing it. The moment you withdraw out of it, your averaging has already gone for a toss. You've averaged it, so your average cost of acquisition has been from 2010 to 2017. If you redeem it now, and if the markets go up, you're going to lose a lot of money. Suppose you redeem it now, and the markets are going to go down, so are you also stopping your SIPs? You're not going to stop. You're further introduction of money into the mutual fund. So the SIPs, the underlying purpose of investing in SIP is that you do not want to time the market. And if you do not want to time the market, then why are you getting into that exercise even after 5 years, maybe, for instance? So you continue with your SIPs, and when you're investing in through an SIP, you are investing a particular sum of money, but does not mean the fund manager is not trying to time the market. The fund manager is anyways making changes in his portfolio, depending on which company is expected to do well or not do well. So the fund manager is churning the portfolio any which case. You are investing a particular amount every month, and your entitlement in that fund is to the units that you're holding.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, audience, and thank you, experts. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of NSE FinWiz on CNBC TV 18. Hope those insights and tips will really help you manage and grow your money better. Until next time, it's goodbye.
So the event was very insightful, and I'd say as a chemical engineer, and you'd find a lot of engineers in this campus, we really don't know much about our financial investment plans. So it was really insightful and got a lot of knowledge.
I think a lot of things that we were not aware of, those have now really come into picture, which has really helped me now relook at my investment plan.
They have exposed us to a lot of different avenues where you can invest your money and get more returns. So I think I'll go out there and think of better options now.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
Welcome back to NSE FinWiz, powered by CNBC TV 18. Today we are at Dr. Reddy's laboratories in Hyderabad, and in this segment our set of financial experts is all set to deep dive into today's core topic, that is real estate. So experts, first off, Everyone has this question. Is it good to buy or rent in India as far as residences are concerned? Lovai, would you like to start?
So I have a very diametrically opposite view of as compared to India, and I'm seeing the trend beginning to happen. It's probably just about beginning to happen. In the past, everybody felt that real estate was a great thing to do, to own. After I owned one, I should have a second, then a third. What I'm seeing the start of is the movement away from ownership to usership.
Right.
And people actually want to be free and not stuck with a particular location, type of job, city they work in, etc. So I'm seeing more and more people saying that really if I buy real estate, I am forced to then live in that city, or I am forced to live closer to that area while my workplace is 40 kilometers away.
Right.
And I think that that's something that comes in the way. And I think it's not just true of younger generation. If I can take my own personal example, I moved from a own residence to a rented residence just because the rented residence was a 10-minute walk to my office.
Right.
As opposed to a lottery of 35 minutes to 2 hours to drive to office and back. And I think I'm so liberated in the last few months, just on account, it's financially probably a bad decision, in the sense that place is still lying, it's vacant, I've not done anything with it, trying to do something, demonetization came in the way. But I think that it just changes the way you look at things. And I think that's a big change, is what I see.
All right. But purely from an investment perspective, even if one was to not live in that house, is it a good option to invest in real estate given the current market scenario?
Well, if you look at the current situation, most certainly not. The reason being because, we've seen, if you look at the data, specific to real estate, we know developers are sitting with a large amount of unsold inventory. And newer constructions are just about happening. I mean, you have government coming out with incentives for affordable housing. So you will see more construction coming into play. So more and more supply coming in, demand weathering away, with because of the cost being one factor. The other, the mindset, as Lovai said, that people are moving away from ownership thought now, and they're more happy to rent out because it makes more financial sense also in case you're looking at only investments. Now, in real estate, you must realize unless you have made your money 3 times, you've really not earned anything. The reason being because you buy a real estate, there are taxes to be paid on that. There is a maintenance, if it's an apartment, then there is a society maintenance charges to be paid. Then there is renovation, repairs that you need to get regularly done. The rental yield that you get on a residential property is about 1.5 to 2%.
Yeah.
So what have you actually earned at the end of the period? So unless you sell your property for 3 times the value, you've not really made money out of it.
Right.
And even when you sell, there is a taxation impact on that. So if you look at it from that perspective, does it really make good investment sense? Maybe not. However, if you've exhausted all other financial assets, you've got equities, you've got debt, you've got precious metals, and you're still left with a lot of money, then maybe you could think about it.
Okay.
The problem, as I see again, is that people who start earning, buying your own house is a sense of pride. It's a sense of achievement.
Right.
Maine apna ghar bana liya. That kind of an attitude. So probably there is where the problem starts. And just when you're earning, where you've begun to earn for yourself, and if you take up an EMI on your head, you will realize that contribution towards EMI sucks away all the liquidity that an individual has. Then you're left with no money to invest into any financial assets. So there is only one single asset that you will own for a considerable amount of time until your income goes up substantially.
Right.
So real estate in current environment, I don't think so. Even from a financial standpoint, I think if you first do away with all other requirements of financial assets, your commodities, your precious metals that we're talking about, and then if you're left with something, maybe real estate would come in at that point in time.
All right. Okay, so let's take up some questions from the audience here. The first one is from Smita Ramdas, Director, Department IPM. And her question is, in Hyderabad, is it wise to invest in apartments? I somehow feel that there's so much in supply in case of apartments, or would it be safer to invest in land?
Yeah, so when it comes to real estate, if at all you can manage and secure your land is still a better investment to make. The reason being, land is a natural resource. So you will not have more land coming up. but you can have more apartments coming on the same land. So when you say a piece of land, there is a multiple that you can construct. And that multiple is currently controlled by the government, which is called an FSI.
Right.
So for example, if the government allows you to construct 2 times of the area of your land, that's a 2 FSI. So which means if your land is say 1,000 square foot, you can construct 2,000 square foot on that land. What stops the government from tomorrow going vertical and saying that you can construct 4,000 square foot on the same, so 4 FSI? So the value of an apartment may get affected because of that, but the value of land in that context will go up. So land is certainly better, but it comes with its own sense of problems, which is you need to make sure it is not encroached upon, the titles are clear. So if you can manage all that bit, land is certainly a better investment than having an apartment.
And commercial versus residential? I mean, return-wise, of course, I'm sure commercial properties give you better returns, but there is a lot of cost difference as well. So when you weigh the two from an investment perspective, what would you suggest, Lovesh?
So commercial definitely gives you a better yield. The risk, of course, in both, if you're making an investment and you're sort of letting it out, is what happens when the tenant vacates. How quickly are you able to replace, and whether you're able to maintain the same rent that you were getting from the old tenant. So in commercial, depending on again the size of the property, it may take much longer if you have large piece of commercial to get a tenant again. So that's the risk that's there. But I think otherwise, I would imagine that commercial, if you had the money, is probably a better investment than residential.
Okay, time for another quick break right now. But on the other side, our financial experts will be answering all the questions that employees have here at Dr. Reddy's laboratories in Hyderabad. Stay with us on CNBC TV 18.